Who is your favorite president?
My favorite president is Ronald Reagan.
And why?
A couple of things. First of all, I liked Reagan's stance on, he was anti-communist. So he wanted to clean up communism. He was a leader in the Cold War. He had a big summit and allowed, I think it was Khrushchev, to do away with his intermediate term missiles, so that protected the U.S. He lowered taxes, which was important. Actually, at that time, it wasn't really important to me. I was just still in college, but eventually it would be important to me. And he increased spending on military, which I thought was important. Let me just check my notes here. He actually was the first president to nominate a female to the Supreme Court. That was Sandra Day O'Connor, which was really a progressive thing he did. Reagan was called the great communicator, so he was a great communicator. If you know, he was an ex-actor, so Reagan was in a lot of movies as a younger person. He was governor of California also. He survived an assassination attempt, which I thought was pretty cool. This guy named John David Hinckley took a shot at him, and that was early in his presidency. He was able to survive that. So I guess there's a lot of things that were good about him. Actually, during his presidency, it was the longest period of time. It was over 8 years where we had a very good, robust economy. And we had record periods of prosperity without any recession or any depression. So that was really a good time under his leadership. That was Reagan. I guess the only thing that was bad about Reagan, you're probably going to ask that next, right?
Yeah.
Was that for people who didn't believe in big government, he was all about big government. So a lot of people said that he created a system in the government where the government took care of a lot of things for you, and there was a lot of money changing hands within the government, a lot of programs. So the government was getting bigger, and sometimes the smaller individuals or smaller people or smaller businesses may have suffered a little bit because of that. So personally, I liked Reagan, but if you look at the other side of it, those that were against big government wouldn't have liked Ronald Reagan. That's it.
And then least favorite president?
Least favorite president by far was Jimmy Carter. He didn't really do much. He was the president before Ronald Reagan. And actually, when you think about it, what's interesting about Reagan was he was president from 76 to 1980. I think he was a one-term president. You have to check those facts. But I think the one thing he'll be most remembered for is he boycotted the Olympics. In 1980, he led the boycott of the Olympics, and a lot of people were pretty upset about that. During his presidency, gas prices, believe it or not, this was 1980, gas prices per gallon were $2 a gallon. So although he was supposed to be great in foreign negotiations and foreign politics, he was awful. So he wasn't really a good negotiator, nor was he good with foreign policy. So he did a very poor job. There was very high inflation during his time. There were hostages taken in Iran during his period of time, U.S. hostages in Iran. He gave away the Panama Canal, which was pretty big. We had double-digit inflation and double-digit interest rates. So, and 11% unemployment. So unemployment is 11% right now. So look at high gas prices, high unemployment. Those are things that he really didn't do a very good job with. He had all the tools to be a good leader, but he was not a good leader. There's also a lot of corruption in his government. Lots of corruption. Many of his cabinet members, I think even his Secretary of State, you have to check on that, wound up resigning for issues, taking money out of the table and things like that. So he was a pretty bad president. I guess the good thing about him was the one good thing he did do was he had these Camp David Accords. So he was able to, the Middle East was in a real turmoil at the time of his presidency. He was able to do some peacekeeping in the Middle East. That was a good thing about him. He also had a famous brother, his brother Billy. And it was famous, Billy Beer. His brother was kind of a laughingstock, but look up his brother Billy Carter. He was a peanut farmer from Georgia, Jimmy Carter. And the other thing that was interesting about him was, which I liked, is he was a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. So he was supposed to be a good leader. He had all the tools to be a good leader, but he was not. He did a couple of good foreign policy things, but overall, bad president.
Ow! All right, who is your favorite president from Nixon to Obama?
I would have to say Richard M. Nixon, probably. When he came into office, the U.S. was struggling. We were fighting an unwanted war in Vietnam, and the whole country wanted Lyndon B. Johnson out of office. The man didn't even run for re-election. The country was in such a horrible state. Richard M. Nixon inspired the people, an extremely charismatic speaker, and he planned to get all the troops out of Vietnam. Unfortunately, the only downfall with Mr. Nixon was the Watergate scandal. However, contrary to popular belief, the Watergate scandal was not in fact a spying conspiracy by the Republicans to spy on the Democrats, but in fact, Richard Nixon was showing off his true skills as a ninja as he was sneaking into their convention, unheard and unseen.
Who's your least
Do you
favorite
have any other
president?
questions for me, sir? That's a cool kite, isn't it?
That is an awesome kite.
Yeah, I'm
just gonna
jealous.
say right now.
Yeah. I bet Nixon built it.
So who is your least favorite president?
Who is your least favorite president?
Least favorite?
Looks like a dragon.
Yeah, kind of. It is a trick.
All right.
Oh, okay. Least favorite president. I'm gonna go. George W. Bush. Mainly because he can't pronounce nuclear. He pronounced it like nuclear, like Nucleawyer or something. It's Nuclear, nuclear, not nuclear. And he also tried to say like strategery, also not a word. Very disappointed, poor usage, poor grammar, unintelligent human being. Thank you for your time.
No, you have to say one positive thing about Bush.
One positive thing about
Yeah.
Bush, he owned the Rangers at one point in his life, and that's a baseball team, so that's good. I like baseball.
I don't like baseball.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sir, may I ask you a couple political questions?
Yeah?
You're over the age of 40, correct?
No?
So you remember the presidency of Richard Nixon?
I do.
Dating back to that time, who are your favorite and least favorite presidents of the United States of America since Richard M. Nixon?
My favorite?
Yes.
George W. Bush. Second one.
Okay. Why is that, sir?
He single-handedly stopped Hurricane Katrina from hitting the shores of Louisiana.
And how did he accomplish this? It's an impressive
His
feat. for
God-given grace, almighty talent,
me. Almighty
strength.
Strength. Do you have any negative things to say about Mr. Bush?
He wiretaps my home.
He wiretaps your
Wiretaps my home. I don't call my friends no more. I just send them letters because I know he's gonna check in my phone.
So you believe that with Bush in office, the Postal Service did a great job of managing your letters?
I don't know.
Okay. And your least favorite president?
Richard M. Nixon.
Richard M. Nixon. Why is that?
He's a coward. Got cheek
Coward.
flaps.
Cheek flaps. That has nothing
He's
to
a
do
damn
with
good
his
speaker.
political. He's a good speaker, you said?
Damn good speaker.
Undeniable, you would say, right? Do
Undeniably
you have
good
anything
speaker.
more specific than his so-called cheek flaps?
There's a whole Watergate thing.
The Watergate thing. What was
Yeah.
that? Can you please expound upon that?
I don't know. Something with Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. I don't think that had anything to do with Watergate. Thank you for your time. You can go shoot someone.
Our first speaker, Mr. Zacchia, was right about most of his facts, but he claimed that gas prices were $2 when they were really only $1.25. And he also said that Carter was president from 1976 to 1980, but it was really 1977 to 1981. And he claimed that the unemployment was 11%, but it was really only 5.8%.
Okay. In our video, Colin Waldock said that Nixon was a ninja, but that's not true. In fact, Nixon was not a ninja. Will Stith said that Bush stopped Katrina, but that is not true because Katrina happened and no person could stop it from happening. And Watergate had nothing to do with Forrest Gump.